Anyone know how you can change the setting on Zoom so you can't see people who don't have the hide non? Yeah, there we go. That just looks a bit better when I'm like showing the screen up there. Yeah, there you go. Sweet. Yeah, this is going to be interesting as fuck. I hope this is going to be super valuable for the guys here. So there's a few kind of ways that you like places you can live. You can live in your family home. You can live at university, or what I'll call is young travel. You're a young guy and you're just randomly going to a different country to do like, what are they called in your country? What do they even, like stuff where you're in school and there's like an exchange student program or some shit, or like, what is that stuff called in everyone's country here? There's a few different kinds that we do in the UK. Not just tourism, like Erasmus is one that I see like a lot of the Greek students do, but kind of like, okay, you're going to go move out for university or anything when you're about 18 or 19 years old. And then there's, okay, let's assume you're a young guy, you started making a few K a month in your business, and then which one of these should you do? So if you're not making a few K a month in business, you can just bear in mind some of the lessons I'll give you, because soon when you make that, you'll want to go traveling, you'll want to go and like stay in hotels or Airbnbs when you go travel to some random country, or you might consider renting to try and have like a base and everything. And so I'll quickly just teach you how I would do this. I wrote some notes down on my phone before as well. Give me 2 seconds. Apologies, I haven't like prepared for this lecture because I was going to give it later, but I'll do it now for you boys. So this is the advice I would give you. Rinse out your family home for as long as possible. This gives you such a powerful, like an incredibly powerful place to live. You know why? Because you have basically zero expenses. So if you know from my story, in fact, I actually think I have that picture right there as well. Yeah, this picture. If you know from my story, I had the worst period of my life. 2019, 2020, I was living out in Manchester, in like the city. I was spending hundreds a month on just the rent, and then I was spending hundreds on the weed and food and bills and council tax and all this stuff. And it was so stressful. It was so overbearing that basically, when you have expenses, like when you move out, let's say you move to the city for any reason, you have this higher cost of living. How do you afford that? Well, you need money for it, of course, but where do you get that money from? Now, either you get that money from your business, which means that your business is in some ways strained, like you need to make money in your business right now, and so you're making more short-term decisions. Or, for most people, what's actually going to happen is you get a full-time job, because you need to make this money right now, right? You get a full-time or a part-time job. And this is exactly what I had as well. And so I was working, I had a part-time job. And so I was working like, I think maybe 24 hours a week to just basically afford to stay outside of my family home. I was losing multiple days a week from my potential as a businessman to just live outside. When you think about how crazy that is, whilst other guys were at home with no expenses, working on their channels, their businesses, I was spending like about half of my weekly work hours just to be able to afford to not live with my family. When I look back, it was so ridiculous. And I had this constant desire back then to become an entrepreneur. Every day I was waking up wanting to make money. I remember I used to see Iman Gachi's videos as well. And he'd be always doing his adverts showing that he's made like a fuck ton of money in the last year. He's made millions and everything. He was younger than me and it used to piss me off. And here I was in my like fairly crappy apartment that was rinsing me dry. And then also when you work the job, you don't often like your life. Like who here knows most likely that if they had a job, they wouldn't like their life as much? Just type 1 in the chat. You just assume that. Because there's some people who wouldn't type 1. There's some people who'd be like, oh, if I got a job, I'd actually like my life more because my family's broke as fuck right now. Like my dad's literally hungry and everything, so the job would change our lives. But for many of us, it's like a job would just make you just feel worse during the day. Issue for everyone typing 1 is, this is what a lot of people don't talk about, is lifestyle inflation. Basically, when you make more money, you spend more money as well. Kind of makes sense, right? You make money so that you've got more money in your bank account. When you've got more money in your bank account, spending that like $30 on a food delivery doesn't seem as significant anymore. And especially because you don't like your life, right? Because tomorrow you've got a full day. Like imagine right now, it's Saturday right now, but imagine if tomorrow you had to wake up at 4 a.m. to start like a shift at 6 for some warehouse thing. Just imagine that, right? Tomorrow you have to wake up at 4 a.m. to do like a 12-hour shift starting at 6 a.m. and it's going to be dark and you're not going to like your life. It's fucking awful. You're sleep deprived. You want to go to the gym later today, whatever it is, right? That would be awful, right? Today, aren't you going to be a little bit more likely to spend that money? Aren't you going to be a little bit more likely to go order the food today because you don't want to cook? Aren't you going to be a little bit more likely to, like, I don't know, if you've got any of the addictions, to go spend money on the weed or the alcohol or whatever? Now, many of you won't have those kinds of addictions, but aren't you going to be a tiny bit more likely to spend the money that you just worked for anyway? So it was this enlightening moment where I realized that I was living outside and I was basically making money, which was increasing my income, but it was also increasing my expenses at the same time. And I saw how absurd that was, that young people live like this. If you're a 28-year-old and you've got children and stuff, this is different. But if you have the option to live at home, this is why family home is so powerful, because you can destroy both of these. With the family home, your expenses can drop immediately. And so therefore, the income you need can drop instantly as well, which means that you don't need money right now, which means that you can actually focus on your business that will make you money, not right now, but in the future. Is this like being insightful for guys? Because if you're living at home and you don't need to, like, you know, the money to, for example, like cover your parents' bills or anything, you shouldn't be working some shitty job you hate right now unless you absolutely need the money. At the very least, don't be working full time when you live at home. The benefit of living at home is that you have low expenses so that you have more time to put into your business. Because for all of you right now that I know of, your business is constrained not by money but by time. Write this down. My business is constrained by time, not by money. By time, by work, not by money. This is one of the things I disagree with Chris from First Man. He's got this old school mindset, but the thing is, like, for example, he's a really good guy, so this isn't me shit talking him, but just his advice for young guys is save up as much money as possible working in a factory job, and then you can use that to start your business. But my perspective is basically any business that requires money to begin with isn't even a business that you should consider for one of your first businesses. For now, your businesses when you're starting should be ones that literally just require your time and your work. So that's like growing on social media by posting content and then doing things which are service related, which is kind of like coaching, creating a course, a community, kind of like these things which aren't vague at all. They've got no expenses. This is just like you just have to work, right? Because I always ask this question. Type 1 in the chat if you're a young man who's willing to work hard as fuck to make a fuck ton of money. Type 1 in the chat if you're willing to work hard as fuck to make a fuck ton of money. Now type 2 in the chat if you have thousands of dollars to spend on a business to hopefully get an ROI. And you are down to do that and you're ready to go and like make that basically that investment or that gamble. A lot less people saying 2 now. Because for most of us, we've got the capability to put our time and energy into a business. But most of us don't have the capability to put money into the business. And so we should be looking to basically free up our time, free up our work effort, our brain points. And how do you do that? By living at home, not moving out. So for many of us, this is actually the best option for at least a few years. Rinse your time at home, put 100% as much as possible of your time into your business. The moment you make your first 1K or 2K, start giving your family like $500 a month. Done. So that it's like everyone's happy. This way, that's the biggest like constraint. You probably know how it is for your parents. Imagine that they make 2K a month, which is kind of like this bar here. It's like the last bit of stress is right here at the top, this bit here. This is where, for example, their expenses was like 2.2K that month because some bullshit happened. Like, you know, gas prices recently went up. Anyone's parents or like anyone know that their parents feel this. It's like they make just about enough, but sometimes a random month puts them over and it's a big cause of stress and they've got to go work the extra shift or they're considering getting another job or they're not getting paid enough. It's for most people, their stress is this small amount there. So basically your parents with their job, if you were able to give them, for most of you, about $500 a month, that would completely and utterly reduce their stress by like 50%. It's huge. The first 500 to like 1K a month that you give to your parents is fucking huge. Past that point, when you scale this up and you're giving your parents like 5K a month, it goes a lot less. And this is coming from my perspective as well. It's like, but by that point, it's nice and it's whatever, but then they just kind of adjust to it. They don't have to work anymore. But the first amount you give is huge. So you should be racing to this. If you want to be like a really good son, race to this. And the way you do that is by having all of your time put into your business whilst you live at home with family. But this is where for most people right here, like 19 years old. Let's talk about for the future. Let's say right now your business has hit 2K a month. Who's going to hit 2K a month within the next 2 years? Type 1 in the chat. Who knows for a fact they're going to hit that shit within the next 2 years? Should be everyone typing 1 right now, right? At least 2K a month. So this is now for the guys who know that they're going to create like some level of success with their business. Let's talk about a few things you can go and live at. I'll make this quite short. This, I actually think, is the meta for life experiences. It's basically when you're about 18 or 19 or 20 years old and you get some kind of money, either from student loans or from like your business, or sometimes you get like grants and whatever. This can let you have an awesome life experience, like Derek has just said, will help you develop to be the kind of person who can make more money from his business. So my perspective, for example, was I lived with my family home till I was 19. Then I moved out for university, and there I got the experiences where I was spending, probably like 7K a year there, probably even more, probably about 10K a year living at university, paying for the student halls like $100 a week or 400 and something a month, paying for the food, drugs, alcohol, everything, right? Again, this isn't for you to be a degenerate, but this is just what I was doing, right? And so I spent quite a lot of money. I spent like probably about 30,000 in a few years. But straight after that, after 1 year of being in dip, my earning went like this. Why? Because like I said on the call with Derek just then, would you be watching me today if I didn't have these experiences? As much as degeneracy is bad, just think about the butterfly effect. If I didn't go and have these experiences where I went to university, went to a ton of parties, hosted my own parties, had my own social experiences, got girls, learned how to flirt and everything, would I have been the same guy making the same videos that you clicked on? It's interesting. It's really not. Degeneracy is bad. Like I'm seeing guys shake their head. Degeneracy is bad, but it's really interesting that like if you took one thing away, I wouldn't have been the same person. How about even a bad thing, pure bad thing, family trauma? If I didn't get abused by my dad, would I have been the same guy that you actually related to and got this? It's weird how like shit works like that, right? It's really weird, isn't it? And so this isn't to say that you should go and do bad habits. Like it's idiotic to think, okay, Hamza took drugs, so I'm going to take drugs. Hamza like committed this crime. No. The point is like, you should be learning to slingshot past me. So my young experiences was filled with a lot of things that actually hurt me. It was filled with like alcohol that kept me fucking brain dead and my brain was like less intelligent and stuff. That's stupid, right? I was sleep deprived, everything. Your young experiences should be things that make you better. So someone asked just then in the Derek call, what kind of experiences can you have when you're young which aren't degenerate? One word: expeditions. This would be huge. Write this down, this one word down, and think of a few that you can think of for this year and for the next year. Can you plan like a couple of expeditions, big events, which will challenge you? So instead of it being like, I'm going to go move out and try and sleep with like 6 out of 10s in university, make it something like, okay, I'm going to complete this big thing. I'm going to go walk from the top of my country to the bottom of my country. People literally do this, it takes like months and months and months. People do this. Like there's videos you can go and watch of people doing this in the UK, in America. We have a guy who's done this in America, and he's doing a guest call with us soon. His name's Mike Posner. He was like this music artist, and he walked all of America. People actually do this right now. Imagine that. Imagine you're going to be using your savings for this trip. It's going to take you a couple of months. You're going to have to buy food from like restaurants or whatever, right? And you're not going to be able to make that much money whilst you're traveling and doing this. But imagine the man you become when you can say that you walked your entire country and it took you 3 months and you had to just keep like sleeping in like a hammock or some shit. Think about that. Like Thomas has just said a good one. Climb mountain in shorts with Wim Hof. That's what I want to experience. So you can go and meet Wim Hof in this big group, and it's like he charges, I don't know, 2 or 3K. You stay with this massive group, and then you all go up this mountain in Poland together in shorts, like this icy mountain, and you learn this breathing protocol with this absolute legend. Imagine that. Now imagine your videos after that. Imagine you go move to Thailand and you learn to fight Muay Thai by the genuine fighters, and then you have your first Muay Thai fight in the ring. There's you and there's the other guy. Now imagine your videos after that. In my opinion, this kind of stuff is the highest ROI when you are a young man. Please believe me when I say this. Do not spend a single second of your time looking into investments. I really wish you could believe me. Sometimes I'll speak to young guys who are obsessed with this idea of investing into fucking stocks and crypto and everything. The highest ROI, not even close, is your own development as a man. You should not even be thinking about investments. I'm barely thinking about investments, and I make 100K a month because it's just not worth it. What the fuck? You're trying to gain like 10% per year. That's fucking nothing. If you've got $3,000 right now, you could save it all in some good investment and be on 3.3K in the year. Is that going to change your life? That $300 over a year of your youth? But 3K spent in like 2 months of Thailand where you win or even lose a Muay Thai fight, that's going to change your life forever. 3K spent on expenses whilst you go walk your country is going to change your life forever. So for this age, what I recommend is you go and do something which basically takes you out of your family home, where you, like, basically step one, think of the expedition, like plan the expedition. Step two, save up the amount that you need for it. So think of something cool that you know that would develop you and challenge you. Find out how much you need for it and set that as your goal. And so go save up like 5K, whether you get it from parents or grants or business or whatever. Save that up and then go on the actual expedition. And this is like basically in some ways you're almost living there, because most expeditions are going to be like multiple months long. This is what I mean by like young travel. I should have just changed that word to expeditions. So when you're young, this is a huge ROI, especially when you're like 19 years old. Because let's be honest, many of you would fucking love it if you went to some other country, no one knew you there, and you'd be able to just go like chat up, like, you know, like some beautiful girl as you're in the street, and then you meet some guy from this other country, and then there's this completely new experience. No one knows you, no one recognizes you. That's some powerful stuff, right? That's an invisible benefit that you can't even imagine right now if you haven't moved out. When you go to a completely new place that no one knows you, you can be whoever you want to be. And that's such a beautiful experience where you can just drop this current version of yourself and suddenly just start acting like this version of yourself. And the people who meet you there treat you like that because that's all they've seen you as. And then when you come back home, you'll realize people treat you as like the old version of you. So this is huge ROI when you go and do something which is hard, difficult. It develops you in a positive or even a negative way. Like, you know, you go through hardship. And young travel, just like go on some expeditions, do some crazy shit, basically get some accomplishments and spend the money on accomplishments, particularly ones that you have to like basically live somewhere else. These are the ones that are really going to develop you when you're young. You have to go and live at the fight camp. You have to go and like, you know, imagine this, right? Imagine you and another guy in Adonis school. You start going on some calls. Both of you save up 2.5K and you go and stay in the same place together in your city. And imagine you're saying, okay, neither of us can be a pussy. We're going to do 1,000 push-ups every day. We're going to go cold approach women. We're going to grow our businesses. And imagine that fucking life experience where you moved in with this fucking psychopath who was waking you up at 5 a.m. and saying it's time to do push-ups. Or you could save this, and by the end of the year, you'd get an extra $250. Divided by inflation, which is also about 10% these days, and basically you invested it to basically have zero gain over the year. Is that what you want when you think about your investment? Oh, it goes up by 10% a year. Yeah, but so does inflation recently anyway. It's the same thing. So this is a special moment, particularly when you're young. University is good for this. It's not the same kind of expedition, but it certainly is a life experience. Just be careful with university. I know there's a couple of guys here who are planning to go to college and everything soon. Just be careful when it's university, because you won't get as many of those challenging expeditions, but you will get a lot of degeneracy, sleep deprivation and everything. So just be careful with that. It'll still develop you, but most people, it'll develop them in a worse way. We've got a question from Michael, which is, what can we do when we're younger, we're teenagers? For that, just follow the first thing. Just stay at home right now, low expenses, keep making money. This is like level 1 / when you're a young guy. This is like, okay, now you're about 18 years old, and let's say you've got a couple thousand because university gives you some, some grants or whatever, or your parents gave you some money or anything. Does that make sense? So it's like under 18 years old, basically just family home, stay for free, work on business, done. Pretend to work on school, but actually work on business. That's like the meta for under 18-year-olds. And then it's like 18 to anywhere from about like 21 or so, like university, college age is like uni, college, and then travel, particularly expeditions and accomplishments. The reason why I'm not just saying travel, is because this can be very degenerate. Travel when, some young guy goes into some random country with no aim, no purpose, but he just thinks, you've all heard how cool traveling is, right? Everyone's kind of seen that narrative, haven't they? Just type one. Everyone's kind of grown up with this narrative that like travel's like really good for you somehow, right? Everyone's seen that. It's all over the movies. It's all over social media. The truth is most travel is actually going to be a detriment. It's costly. It's bad for productivity. It's bad for health. It's not as fun as it makes it out to be. Honestly, most travel is actually not good for you. You don't want to just go traveling. That's like a really like pussy. You don't just think, oh, haha, I'm just going to go take this flight for no reason and, just go travel. Don't think wrong with you. Like, do you know what it's actually like? So you don't want to just go traveling. You want to wrong with you. I fight there in May of this year. Now that's traveling with a purpose. I am going there for a particular reason. Conquest. Okay. I'm sweating underneath this bathrobe, boys. I'm tired of it. Yeah, dox me if you can figure out the shape of the trees outside. Okay. So that's young travel, which is only like a small opportunity when you're like, I don't know, 18, 20 years old. That's a good time. Let's now talk about the three things that are the most interesting, in my opinion, especially when you get older. So again, you might be like a 16-year-old and you might not be thinking about Airbnbs, hotels, or anything. But these are something to just bear in mind. And then hopefully when you make some decisions in the future, this can help guide you. Airbnbs versus hotels. Renting for basically like 6 to 12 month contracts. And then finally buying an actual home, like fully buying it either with mortgage or like fully just buying it with cash. These are what I think about these. Most young men's life path is family home to university, back to family home, save up money, and then they buy their home. Buy home. This is for Jeffries. When I meet a guy roughly my age who tells me he's buying a home and he works a normal job, I just think all I can think is literally like, you fucking idiot. You absolute fucking idiot. Are you dumb? Did you not even watch one video online that would like teach you about like what men should do with their lives? Because this is what you've everyone's seen this shit as well, right? Yeah, Yearlings just wrote this. Everyone's seen the narrative with homes, right? The Matrix propaganda. Just type one in the chat. You've seen this shit, right? Like renting's really expensive. You buy a home and it'll increase in value, and then you can rent it out and everything. And buying a home, it's your property. Your parents have said this as well. Basically, poor people told you that buying a home is a good investment, and you're listening to them. The amount of people, not right now because most of you guys are young, but when you start making money, trust me when I say the amount of people who will start telling you shit like Alex said this, your house is an asset that you can rent it out and stuff. The amount of people who will start badgering you about buying a home is ridiculous. My advice, if you could blindly trust me, my advice would be spend exactly 0 seconds thinking about buying your home up until like more than me. Basically up until you're like, you have $1 million in cash when you're 28, 30 years old and your business is super successful. Basically for the foreseeable future, spend 0 seconds thinking about buying a home. It's a complete and utter waste of time. Every second that I've spent considering buying a home, I've always regretted it, because in the end, the answer always ends up to either rent or to stay in an Airbnb instead. It's absolutely incredible how stupid this decision is, but how common it is. And that should really tell you there. If the masses of poor people are telling you to buy a home, what do you do? Type it in the chat. What do you do? Poor people are telling you a home is a good investment. What do? You do the opposite. Poor people tell you not to rent. What do? You do the exact opposite. It's very interesting that you keep seeing this. It's so interesting, isn't it? The meta for men on self-improvement who are becoming like Adonis. The simple thing is like, just do the opposite of what the poor people do. It's as simple as that. Jeffrey wakes up and grabs his phone. So what do we do? Someone type it in the chat. What do we do? Jeffrey goes to sleep and checks his phone at nighttime. What do? We do the exact opposite as them. They go to university hoping to get a 9-to-5 career. What do? We do literally the exact opposite as them and we're getting better results. And you know this. And even if, let's say, you're a young man and you've just started this journey and you're not getting any of the results, you just know that this is the right advice. You just know it, right? As soon as someone tells you like buying a home is a stupid investment, it's like suddenly like the matrix has just been destroyed in your mind. You know, that all the darkness has been destroyed. And oh yeah, like just the exact same way when as soon as the first time someone told you that careers and universities basically a scam and that business is better, it's like straight away you were like, oh yeah, like why is everyone stupid? What the fuck? Like why are my parents stupid? Like what? Who goes to university? It doesn't make any sense. Why are you all pretending like this is normal? This is so weird, right? It's like your awakening moment, and I hope this is with buying your home. 0 seconds spent on this. Please trust me, it's such a waste of time. Because if you, let's say you're 22 years old and you have absolutely millions and millions and you are 100% certain that this is where you're going to raise your family, go ahead. For an investment, it's a stupid idea because, again, when you're young, invest into your business, invest in experiences. So investment is gone. For your actual family home, like, okay, you're going to have your children. This is it. If you're anything like me, you're not really going to know for certain where you want to be. You know how so many people seem so certain with where they want to live when they're young and the choices they want to make. It's because they're peasants. Basically, choices are very easy to make when you're a peasant because you don't have many choices. You want to know what life is like for your future, like what it's like for me? I basically feel like I have unlimited money when it comes to most expenses apart from something huge like a home, right? But even for a home, think about it. I profit about £100,000 per month. So I can buy like our dream home in like a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? Like months for like my first home. Think about how logistically of a nightmare it is to try and think of where you'd want to raise your family and buy a home. For one moment, like 1 month, I'm thinking this particular place is sick. I'll go and spend an extra month in there and I'm like, oh man, the other place is better. It's like we went to Bali and we met so many good people there. You know, there's like happy people and everything, but then it's not really healthy. There's air pollution and shit. So we moved to Scotland and it's really happy and it's really awesome here. But then 5 weeks later, we're kind of bored and it's like, oh man, there's no one our age here. It's imagine if you bought a home in any of these places, you'll be like this because you're basically going to spend multiple years moving around the earth to find like the place that you want to be. But the issue is you'll never find a secure place because when you revisit that place in a few more months, it will be different because you are different. Do you see how this works? It's like you will rapidly evolve every month for the next like 10 years of your life. So to think that you, like, no offense, you've got to be a fucking arrogant dumbass to think that you know more than your future self, right? Think about how fucked that is. Buying a home says, I, right now in 2024, know more than my future self. Think about how retarded that is. I'm right now, 2024 version of me, I'm going to make this lifelong commitment or this 5-year commitment or this 10-year commitment that future me needs to be saddled with. That's like being 18 years old and proposing to the first girlfriend that you have. What you're actually doing is, okay, me at 18 is going to make this commitment that my future self has to live out. Why the fuck would you think that's a good idea? So there's young men I'll speak to who are 22 years old, 23 years old, buying a house. And I'm just thinking like, you're 23. What you've just said is to your 30-year-old self that you knew enough. You've been to 2 countries in your life. What are you on about that this is where you want to spend your life? It's because you haven't even seen anywhere else. Does this make sense? So don't think about buying a home when you're young. Even in your 20s, I think it's a mistake. I see men still in their late 20s and 30s just renting and living an awesome life. When you think about buying a home at this age, it's all you're doing is just constraining your future self and saying, no, this is the decision I made for you when I was younger. You want to try and limit those big lifelong decisions, right? Especially when you're young, because anyone else relate to this? Type 1 in the chat if you relate that every like 3 to 6 months, you realize just how stupid and cringy and unintelligent you were. Because anyone who's typing 1 right now, that means you're rapidly improving, right? So especially at the start of my journey, I was getting this like every month. I'd look back to how I behaved, like, next to the girls in class or something. And I'd cringe after, I realized something new. I watched like another YouTube video that taught me how to interact with girls or anything. So it's like, why would you then do this with your house? Otherwise, future you is going to be typing 1 in chat and be like, yeah, that dumbass bought a house that he couldn't afford and now I have to pay for it, prick. Like, why would you do that to him? You're basically going to make your future self just pay the mortgage for your decision right now. So doesn't it make sense to have the humility to think, okay, if we're honest, we can probably only make decisions in like maybe a 1 to a 12-month scope. That's a commitment, right? We should only be making like a couple of month commitments. Years is far too long. How, like, anyone, like, how many years have you been on self-improvement? And if it hasn't been 1 year, put 0. So if it hasn't been 1 year since you've discovered, like, my videos, put 0. How many years have you been on self-improvements? For most of us, about 1 or 2. So think about how much you've changed in that time. And think about if your younger self made a commitment for you back then. So if this version of you before self-improvement made a commitment that you had to stick to today, you'd be pissed, right? You'd be pissed. Well, your future self is thinking the same thing about you. He's thinking that motherfucker better not like constrain me into anything. I don't want to like make this, I don't want to be stuck to your decisions. You married that 5 out of 10. Like, why'd you do that, bro? Why'd you do that? So you don't want to be making massive commitments for your future self, because we understand that every few months we become our future selves, and our future self is a lot better, right? Just how you are significantly better than you were just a few months ago. You know more about the world. Your future self knows more about you. So don't make a commitment for him. So even 1 to 12 months, in my opinion, does anyone else feel like that's kind of long? Like 12 months particularly, like let's say 1 year where you want to live. Like imagine you go pay for 1 year in a rent or anything. Anyone else feel like that's kind of long as well? Imagine if you made this commitment right now, I'm going to live here right now for 1 year. That's still kind of long. What if your YouTube channel gets 10K views tomorrow? You never know when that shit's going to happen, right? So 1 year is huge. You know why? Because that's about 5% of your life right now. Think about that. That's 1 year of your life. 1 year is about 5% of your life right now. That's huge. That's very significant to make that commitment. So just bear that in mind. Even though we want to be making like long-term decisions and we want to be setting specifically long-term goals, we probably don't want to be making the commitments right now. We want to be on the path to some long-term goal. Like we want to be billionaires. We want to be millionaires. We want to have the feminine lady and stuff. And we want to be pushing towards that, certainly. But we don't want to have anything that hooks us into a certain position, because we know that our future self will be smarter than we currently are, and he'll make better decisions for us. Just quickly, like there's a phrase for this. I don't know if anyone will get this, but basically there's like, this is so interesting. There's like a problem for NASA, where if they're trying to send, like, let's say a telescope to a really, really far away place, they often won't, because they assume that technology will progress so much that if they send something out right now and use the resource, the money for it, in the future, in like 2030, that thing that we sent out will only be here. But then we'll send out something which is way faster, and it'll be faster than it. So it's like all of these resources was just wasted then. So it's like, you don't want to be making a decision that future you would make even better than you right now. I think that's such a good point. So in terms of a house, have I convinced enough people now? Type 1 in the chat. Spend 0 seconds for the next while, like maybe decade, of just buying a home. Spend 0 seconds on that. Okay. So now we basically have 2 options then. Airbnb/hotels, we'll class them as the same thing, and then rent. So I'll teach you about both now. Renting is a 6 to 12 month contract, and it's a lot more of a setup. Basically, you have to go and view the apartment. You've got to go sign a contract. If there's any damages, you get billed. You've got to stay there for the right amount. You've got to pay consistently. If there's any problems, like what if you move in and, for example, then there's a problem afterwards, the landlord doesn't really have to improve it. So imagine you move into this place and you pay 2K a month, and it's kind of nice, right? You move in, you sign it all, okay, it's nice, you got the key, whatever. It's a big monumental thing. It takes like weeks to set up, just for something like 6 to 12 months as well. And it's all nice. A week, 2 weeks in, some bullshit happens. You've got to ask the landlord to fix it now, because it's not your property. So you're basically a bitch when you're renting. This is the issue with renting. It's like you've made this commitment, and it took quite a while to set up, first of all. But once you're inside, it's like this serious thing where you need to get permission to do anything in there. And if there's a problem, you don't get refunds. Like if the water stops working or the internet stops working for a week, you don't get refunds. You can't just leave the contract or anything either. So renting is a bit like, for me, it's a bit scary, because I'm actually like, I'm hesitant to rent because of how much life changes in 6 to 12 months. So if we just agreed that we can't make decisions which are 12 months, even 12 months, or certainly like, a decade for like the house, then probably 12 months is probably still too far for many of us. So then we're thinking, okay, 6 months. and everyone on that page then, basically we said we're not going to do the house because it's too much of a commitment. We also agreed that 1 year is quite a long commitment, and 1 year is how long you rent for. So we've almost kind of got to the point where we're thinking, wait, we're not even going to rent for 1 year, because that's still, like, we change a lot in 1 year, and we wouldn't want to be committing, future us to living in the same place, right? So is everyone following along to like my sort of intellectual decision making here, right? So we're on this and we're thinking, okay, even 1 year renting is probably too long. So then we'll think about 6 month renting. That's a 6 month contract. We can kind of consider life will be relatively the same in 6 months. But then if you're going to rent for 6 months, it takes like a few weeks to set this shit up, and you're still in this contract that you can't get out of. At that point, you may as well just go to the meta, which I think is Airbnb hopping. This is why I've lived out of Airbnbs for the last while. Now, that has meant that I've had very little stability, that I've constantly moved month to month, which is definitely bad for your productivity. That's definitely the negative. It's meant that Airbnbs are more costly per month than renting or than a house. So that's definitely a negative. I want to tell you these negatives because you will see them. The beautiful thing is, if you start to make a good amount of money, if money is checked off, Airbnbs give you the ultimate flexibility where you can book week to week or even month to month. So if I want to leave ASAP, I can. You can get refunds as well. You can literally message people, get refunds. You can, if you go in and the internet doesn't work, you can walk out and get a full refund. You cannot get that with rent. If you set up a rent and next door they start a construction site and it's loud as fucking, disturbs your peace and your videos, which has happened to me before, you have to live there for the next 12 months, or you have to make this weird, awkward decision thinking, okay, either I live there and hate it and I can't even record my videos most of the time, or I take the L with the 2K a month and like go back to my family's home or go somewhere else. And imagine that fucking tricky situation. It's fucking annoying, isn't it? If you don't like anything about an Airbnb, there's very easy ways for you to just get a refund. Do you want me to just give you the tip? It's kind of manipulative, but don't tell too many people this. Use this for yourself. Basically, all you have to say is, it was not as pictured. This is an instant refund on almost every website, not as pictured. eBay, Amazon, Airbnb. This is, don't be like a dick and don't hurt small people's like businesses or anything. But if you need a refund on basically any site, not as pictured, not as described, will get you a full refund immediately. I'm talking like, don't be a dick though, because there's people like on eBay that you can use this against if it's genuinely like a shit product. But that's like some guy who's building his business. So don't be a dick. It's same with like Airbnb. Don't be a dick. But sometimes if you do come in and it's disappointing, like I've done before, if you just say this option, you get a 100% refund on every single website I've ever seen so far. Exactly this. The moment you say some other bullshit, it doesn't work. You have to say not as pictured. That's it. Just those 3 words, you'll get a refund. That's what the power of Airbnb is with hotels as well. You don't get to say that with rent, because when you rent, you sign a contract where basically you are saying, yes, it is as pictured already. So then you can't get a refund after that. You can't, yeah, if anyone says this with Adonis School, if they're trying to cancel, you're getting fucked, bro. Adonis School is not as pictured. Oh, well, he used the line. So basically, this is what I think is the meta for young guys when you're starting to make a good amount of money. Let's say you're making like 5K a month and you want to go and experience the world and you want to go and like, develop yourself. Airbnb/hotels. Because if you rent, you're stuck. And imagine right now, if you are on 5K a month, where do you think you're going to be in 6 months from now? Someone just say a number that you think is fairly reasonable, but knowing that success kind of compounds like this. If in January you're on 5 months, if you worked hard in June, what could you be on? Probably about double. Honestly, probably about double. 5 to 10. Depends what business model and everything. But you can really go from 5 to 10K in 6 months. You can probably double every 6 months. So if you're making nothing right now, like let's say 0, in 6 months, you can probably be getting to about 2K. If you're making like 1K right now, you can probably get to about like 2 or to 5, anywhere there. If you're making 5, anywhere from like 10 to 15. Obviously, sometimes things change. It's like earlier this year, I went from like, I don't know, it was 10, 15K to 120. So I 12x'd my business. Actually, no, sorry, that's probably not right. It's probably about 30K. So I 4x'd my business revenue. So way more than this in like a few months, like literally the scope of about like 3 or 4 months. So you can make faster moves. But in general, let's say, okay, 5 to 10K, right? So imagine in 6 months, you've doubled your business. Think about that. You've doubled your business. Are you going to be the same man? Are you going to have the same interests? Are you going to want to live in the same place? Imagine if you're in May right now of this year and you really want to move, but you set this contract in January and it's 2K for the next month. What would you do? Be honest. Imagine you're making 10K a month and you're not happy here anymore and you've got 1 month left and it's 2K for the next month. would you just leave and take the L for the 2 month, for the 2K, just for this month, and be like, oh, fuck it, I'm not happy here. My productivity is actually kind of more important anyway. So I'll just go and move, right? Anyone else like feel like they've got that personality style where like you're basically just like, you'd move early if you didn't like it, especially when you've got enough money to do so. You wouldn't kind of have the sunk cost fallacy, right? So this puts you in a really terribly hard place to rent and stuff, because you're basically too fast to rent anymore. Because trust me when I say, for many of you, your life will change way faster than you think. I'm surprised just how fast my life changes. You are here because you have high levels of humility and you're dedicated to learning. You've seen from me as well, I have no shame in this whatsoever, how much my mind changes, my opinion changes. And that's what you should be like. You should be working on this current thing and realize it's fucked and then change over. You should have this current mindset, realize it's fucked and then change over. If you want to go, like Koa just said, if you want to go from genuine government welfare to millionaire like I did in 3 years, you've got to be willing to be able to like destroy current beliefs, no sunk cost fallacy, and move and move and move and move and move. Renting, and especially a home, doesn't give you that flexibility. This does. Because if you buy an Airbnb for a month and you're 2 weeks in and you realize some shit's happen and you don't want to go and there's like 1.7k left, there's no contract, you just leave. No problem. Now imagine if 2 weeks into the same place, it was a 12-month contract that you're stuck to now. That's fucked. Would you really want to go and like lose 11 months of like 2k a month? It puts you in a very tricky situation, and then you're living like this inauthentic life where your purpose, your mission is calling you to go somewhere else and you can't. You're just, congratulations, you're a peasant again, aren't you? You're just slave again. You're just back to being a Jeffrey. You've got to stay there, right? So this gives you ultimate freedom. I'll teach you a few tips about Airbnb and in uni. Yeah, Leonard, so the one thing I'd say is when you're younger and when you're going to university, that's absolutely fine. So in university, you can go get the student halls and everything, and that's fine. That's technically kind of like a rent, but as I said, this is a very special, like monumental period around 18 to 21-year-old where the rules are kind of different. You wouldn't want to be living out of Airbnbs when you're young, when you're in university, because you may as well live in like the student hall where all the social life is happening, so you can actually have that as an extra benefit. Live in the big student halls where you've got like not roommates, but you've got people who live in your flat or people who live in your building, and there's like parties and social occasions and everything. That's technically renting, but it's a bit different because when you're in university, you kind of know, okay, this is like, that's my university over there for the next year. That's not going to change. That's my building. You kind of know that. You have that stability there. Once you come out of university, you have no stability in business whatsoever. For 1 year, it can be doing nothing. The next year, you can be making over 10k a month. So it's just bear that in mind. So hotels and Airbnbs are basically the meta for young men who want life quality, life setup, let's say from around 21 years old to maybe somewhere around like 25 or maybe even a little bit older than that. Like I'm still living out of Airbnbs right now, because one of the conversations I had with my girl once when we were like driving around viewing houses and thinking about it, I had that insight thinking, if we buy a house, we're just constraining our future selves with this decision. And we just realized how idiotic it was that we were pushing ourselves to try and find a house so quickly. When I was just thinking, it's like, there's still like 7 countries we've not been to that we've talked about. There's still like trips we've never taken. There's still experiences we've never had. My business was 6 times in 1 year. So why not next year? And 100%, I want to keep telling you the negatives. You've got to move all the time with Airbnbs. These are certain negatives. It's effort. There's no stability. So every time you set up in an Airbnb, you've got to be like, you've got to set it up again. You've got to find your workstation and everything. It's a bit more expensive per month. You've got to move constantly, which is a bit more of a hassle. But what I would say is, if you've got the Airbnb kind of lifestyle with especially a sort of minimal nomad lifestyle, these work well together. If you own a lot of crap, you probably don't want to do this. I thought I was quite a minimal guy, but when you move around from Airbnb to Airbnb, especially when you live with a fucking girl, you realize just how much crap you just accumulate. Our car's just full right now of random stuff. Like we still have like Christmas wrapping paper in there that we've moved to like 3 different Airbnbs. It's just pissing me off. We got some random like big cardboard game thing that she cut out and we've never played before and everything. So you want to be a minimal nomad. So basically you want to be able to live outside of your backpack. That way you have no stress. Anytime you want to go take a flight to some random country and go stay in an Airbnb there for a month, you don't even have to check in luggage. You don't pay extra for the luggage. You don't have to wait in the big line with the peasants. You walk right through, get your ticket, boom, right in. You want like literally a light bag, which genuinely just has your laptop and like 3 pairs of clothes and nothing else, and live with like with this like sort of very minimal style where if you need something, go to the shop and buy it and then throw it away once it's not needed anymore. When you're a young young man, you don't want to be constrained by items. Think about how absurd that is, that some people won't even ever go and realize their purpose because they have accumulated crap like objects that are too hard to move. I'm all for buying, you know, the expensive setup things like the 8 Sleep, which is like this $5,000 mattress and this air filter and everything. I think these things are really nice. If you have, like, for example, you know you're going to stay in your family home for a while. So in my family home, I have all of these things. But when I'm going like Airbnb to Airbnb, I don't want to bring many of these things because it's so annoying if you're going to go 1 month here, 1 month here, 1 month here, 1 month here. So you don't want to be like having crap accumulation. The benefit of this is you get to, let me show you a couple of Airbnbs. I won't show you the ones that I'm in just in case there's any weird motherfuckers, but this is a really nice one that we stayed at a while ago. Yeah. You stay at places like this, which are like literally some of the most beautiful places you could live in. Imagine a week there with your girlfriend, 2 weeks there, beautiful cafes, everything, right? You don't get hotels like this, and you can't like just... you don't get rents like this. You don't rent a place like this. Any building like this is all, it was as pictures. I swear to God, it was perfectly. These new kind of ones are always as exactly as pictured. You don't get a place like this like on rent for 12 months. This is like an Airbnb. Basically, anyone who has like this beautiful kind of home, they rent. If I show you right now, let's say, let's choose a city like Amsterdam. And we go, this is what you do. You set it to month and you set it for 1 month. Starting when you can go. So let's say if I was going to go like next Friday or something, and then we'll just do 2 guests there. No strings attached. Come in, stay for a month, have an amazing month when you can afford something. This is obviously quite pricey and many people won't be able to afford this. But imagine there's no setup. Do you know the beautiful part of this? If you can afford, this is like my price, right? So many of you won't be able to afford this, but Amsterdam's quite an expensive city. But let's say for me, I can afford about 10K a month wherever I want to live. Past 10K like this would be annoying to spend this much money, like 14K a month, but I could do if I wanted, right? Now imagine living in a place like this for just a month. Imagine that as like your self-image thing here, and you're bringing people over, you're making a little vlog when people come over, you got your girl making pastries and shit, nice life, 2-3 friends, you meet some other people, you do a little meetup in Amsterdam and like people come stay over, you bring friends over and everything, you got social media content, you're taking pictures for your Instagram and shit. It's not bad, right? Now, this is a very expensive place, so don't be thinking, oh man, I'm gonna spend so much money there. But the beautiful thing, what I like about this is, let me paint you the picture of what actually happens. Let's say we book like this one here. This is cute, right? We book this beautiful place. It's for 1 month, right? We take the plane to Amsterdam. From UK, it's a 1 hour plane. We take only our bag, which means that when we're in the airport, it's not, you know how like anyone who's been to airports recently, probably with like family, known that it's always kind of long, isn't it? You're pushing shit around the luggage. Anyone kind of feel that? It's like, although flying is like fun, it's kind of like painful as well. Like it's weird, isn't it? Because you're a strong guy, you can deadlift like 100 and something kilograms, but pushing around a fucking a suitcase is kind of annoying, isn't it? Especially when it's your girl's suitcase as well, right? But imagine you take a light backpack. That's all you own is literally a couple pairs of clothes, your laptop, and a few essentials like your mouse or your microphone, whatever you use for work, right? Maybe your camera or whatever. And every item that you travel with, you really think to yourself, okay, let me show you like travel, like what I keep in my travel backpack. Let me just show you. It's not exactly what I want to be looking at, but I just want to find you a particular picture like this, right? Imagine if this was like all of your possessions. Imagine if you literally just like kept everything organized and you owned like a few things. You owned a laptop, you owned everything related to that. So, your chargers, whatever. You owned your phone and you just thought, fuck it. I'm not even going to take my camera. I'm just going to record on my phone. It's fine. Quality's fine. I'm just going to like try and be as minimal as possible. Do I need that jumper? No, because it's kind of like warm there anyway. And fuck it, I'll just do cold exposure when I'm outside anyway. I'll have one jacket. I'll have one pair of pants, I'll have 3 pairs of gym shorts, I'll have 5 pairs of normal shirts, and I'll have 1 pair of like fancy shirt in cases I want to go on like a fancy date with a girl. That's all I own. And I own my toothbrush, and I own like a few random other things that I'm taking as well. You know what will happen then? Why this life is very nice. You can move so quickly. The moment you want to go to like some other country, you can book the flight immediately. You don't have to even but pay for the luggage. And when you get to the airport, you don't stand in the big peasant line where the people are there with the suitcase, because you can print off your ticket beforehand. So all you've got to do is like check in at the front, and you don't have to stand with the suitcase peasants. You just get the little ticket and go straight to security. So you've just saved a solid hour there, not to mention like the big heavy, like, you know, like your girl's there with 4 books in a backpack and everything. You're just light, you go in, you're having like a nice meal, coffee, whatever before your flight. And this is the beautiful thing. You buy this place for a month, you show up, you walk in, and you're set up. You know what it is? Anyone rented? Because when you rent, it's not like that. When you rent, you first go and you first view the place, which is already taking you like a little while. You've got to go and view the place with the realtor thing, and you're taking a little video of every inch of the floor, making sure there's no cracks or anything, because they'll charge you for that if there is, and you've not taken a video for it. Then you go and like send paperwork back and forth. Then you pay the deposit, and they'll randomly just tell you like, yeah, so check-in is on the 21st of January, and you're looking at the date. It's like, that's in 8 days. My life might change by then. Do you know who I am? I watch Hamza's videos. Like, I might be working with David Data by then. What do you mean check-in is in 8 days? I want to go now. And that's if it's in 8 days, by the way, because many times the check-in's in like, oh yeah, it's like the 1st of February or some bullshit, right? And you're just sat around like waiting in your family home. And now imagine if you're a man who wants to move fast with your purposeful desires when they arise, and you just have to sit down for like 3 weeks straight. Think about that. It's like they're just telling you, yeah, just wait to fulfill your purpose for 3 weeks. And you're just there just thinking, what the hell is this? I just have to wait. Is this what you peasants do? Because normal people can organize their life like that. This is what my girl said to me once. I was annoyed that like we were speaking about this travel plan, but it was like for a specific date. And I was like, why do people like, why has it got to be this specific date? But she was like, no, but normal people who work normal jobs, they don't have the flexibility that we do. If we want to go to a different country, we'll go today. Literally, it will go literally today. If other people want to go and travel, what do? They'll book it off work 3 months in advance. They'll ask master first. If normal people want to go to like, you know, something like go and rent or something, they're going to stay there till the very end of the day because they've got to. I swear Airbnbs must love me. The amount of Airbnbs that I've left halfway through and still continued to pay, because it's like, I'd rather lose the 1K here and there, but go somewhere else, which I feel like I need to. So you walk in here and it's just set up for you perfect. If there's any problems, imagine you walk in and there's construction outside, or there's noise or smell or whatever bullshit, not as pictured, walk out, boom, get the refund, next place done. There's been times, I swear to God, and Southeast Asia is fucking awful for this, by the way. So there's been times where I've traveled a lot to Thailand, to Bali as well, and the amount of times in Bali especially where I walked into a villa and it was just like dirty, it was messy, it stank of like, you know, like cleaning product, like way too much bleach and shit. There's been times where I've walked in, there's been piss drops on the seat, pube on the seat. I'm not even taking the piss, bro. In 5K villas, like 5K a month villa, right? So it's like, you're taking the piss. If this was some cheap place, fine, I'll deserve a piss on the seat because I'm broke, but like, fuck you, I'm paying 5K, right? I walked out straight away, instant refund, no problem. I did that, like it particularly is bad in certain countries, but in Western countries you don't have that, because like cleanliness standards is way higher in like Western Europe and UK and US and stuff. But there's been no problem to get refunds when you're unhappy with an Airbnb, as long as you say not as pictured. The moment you say anything else, like, oh, but you know, there's noise outside, they can dispute it. You say not as pictured, they can't dispute it, because it's just based on your own perspective, right? So, and obviously don't abuse this, but if you walk into a place that you're not happy with, use it, because that's your right to get your money back if you're not happy with it, right? And you don't get that when you rent. So it's like, okay, you're here for a month. Then you're thinking, oh, you know, Amsterdam's not really the place, but you spoke to someone there that was telling you that like Croatia is really, really beautiful. You're like, okay, fuck it. Like, let me search for Croatia. And then, you know, I'll go there once this finishes, or you know what, this finishes on like the 19th, but I don't really want to stay there. Like, I'll just take the L and lose like 2 weeks of it. And I won't like, you know, do the not as pictured thing, because I've actually stayed here. There's nothing wrong with the place. They didn't scam me. It's actually nice. I just didn't like Amsterdam because it wasn't my vibe. Fuck it. I'll lose like 2 weeks because I don't want to wait around. Or you could just wait around if you want. And you start looking for the next place. And you're like, okay, let me go to Croatia. So I'm going from Amsterdam. The next month I'm in Croatia and I'm in this kind of place. Look at the price, bro. Look at the price, bro. Done. Imagine in 2 months you went from Amsterdam to here. 400 a month, bro. Imagine if you had to sit around for 11 months to finish your rent before you were allowed to come here. Nice, isn't it? So this gives you a lot of freedom. I know we've got another call in a few minutes, so I'll hop off now, but this gives you a lot of freedom where you can just go and experience a lot. And you know what the final benefit of this is? You really get standards and you get to know what you like. I know the exact kind of houses I like now because I've been in like 15 different houses or even 20 different houses in the last like while, compared to if I just rented and you only stay in one place per year. Does that make sense? So it's like I've stayed in so many different kind of houses, villas, properties, apartments that now I know. So when I want to buy a house, I actually know. And it's like, it's a fucking good life when you can keep moving around. The women don't come with the Airbnbs. That's just not as pictured, bro. Yeah, I got here and the girl wasn't here, bro. So I want to read. All right, we'll leave it there. I hope that was educational for you boys. I'll go upload this as well. I hope that helps you guys in the future because, yeah, I've had a lot of experiences with this. So, yeah, it's really helped me out knowing like where to live and what kind of life setup to have. I appreciate that, boys. I'm going to hop off. Everyone's unmuted. Have a nice community call as well. Take care, boys.